Good afternoon, DCAC representatives, community members, and LDUSD friends. I'm Dolnari Ederisina Aga. I have had the privilege of working with the District Community Advisory Committee for the past 2 years. Welcome to the first DCAC meeting for the 2021 school year. Although we're unable to meet in person due to the pandemic, I'm very happy that we can come together virtually. We know that this is not ideal, but it's the best that we can do for now. Thank you for your patience and grace during this ever-changing landscape. Today, Mr. James Suarez, Assistant Director of EACCR, will show you how to access the attendance link so that we can capture who is attending this meeting. And he will show you how you can make a public comment and share your thoughts. We will review your input, take it under consideration, and respond. Then, Mr. Robert Tagorda, Executive Director of EACCR, will go over the new Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan. I would like to thank Marketing and Media Services for their support with this meeting and our translators, Sam Kyo, Gloria Rubalcaba, and Pedro Leal. Recordings of this meeting will be available in English, Spanish, and Khmer in a couple of days on the district YouTube page. And now, friend of DCAC, James Suarez.
Thank you, Dolnari. Welcome to a new and highly unusual school year and the unusual reality of virtual meetings. What we were hopeful for was a meeting where we would be together in person. We acknowledge what you may be feeling today, and we agree this virtual meeting does not replicate the feel and the energy of our in-person meetings. So once we are clear to do so in a safe and responsible manner, there is nothing that we want more than to open schools for students and hold in-person meetings together. But to make the best of this virtual situation, we are trying something new today with respect to comments. In the past, I have had the privilege of working with both important committees, DGLAC and DCAC. I work hard to give a relevant presentation, to inform and engage with the legal tasks of the committees, and then I ask for feedback. But quite frankly, I felt rushed to provide the information, and I think that you too may feel rushed to provide quality feedback. Not enough time for the membership to digest and process all of the information received. Like maybe you had a thought while driving home or an idea the next day. So today we're trying something new. We have public comment as a Google form, which is live and currently available. Also, we will continue to accept comments for the next 48 hours, keeping the same link open and ready for your comments. We think that this method is better lends itself to more time to form your thoughts and your suggestions. The direct link to the Google Forms for comments is listed on the agenda, as well as directly below this YouTube broadcast. Let me show you a couple of slides.
James, it looks like you're muted.
Myself. Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. Let me go back to screen share. Am I still on? How's that? Are we okay? Can you still hear me? All right. Sorry about that. I was just, hey, technology, it's a great thing. So let me go back. These are helpful hints to make this meeting more engaging for you. So the first thing we're looking at is getting to the agenda. So the agenda is bit.ly/DCAC agenda 82720. And on this agenda has all the rest of these helpful links as well. So for the plan that we will be discussing today, and Robert Tagorda will be getting more into, you can access the website, which is our lbschools.net website, and you go to local control, and I will show you how to do that in a moment. Two more important links are the sign-in link. So today, we want you to sign in today to ensure that we are responsive to you. The sign-in has just your name and an email address so that we can get back to you for your responses. But it's another bit.ly, which is bit.ly/OG27 sign-in. That's bit.ly OG27 sign-in. And finally, what I was discussing, for 48 hours, we will keep these open. And these are for your comments, your questions, your suggestions, your ideas. And again, it's another bit.ly, which is bit.ly/OG27 comment. So today, you may be seeing something like this, which is if you're working with a cell phone. And if you're watching it from a cell phone, we can get to those links as well. If you see this little caret right beside the name of this meeting, and if you click that caret, it will send you to this, which shows you all of the same websites and links that I just shared. So this little caret right here, if you're on your cell phone, you can access the links through that. And if you are on the laptop or a computer, right below what you're looking at right now, you should see our LBUSD logo and a little area that says Show More. Right here, if you click Show More, you will be able to access also all of the same links that we just shared. So let me stop sharing for just a moment. And I also have a real quick announcement. This is hot off the press, and I'm really happy to share this with you. This is the school opening and safety plan. This 20-page document is very important. It shares some really important information about health and safety, facility cleaning, instructional programs, and much, much more. It's located on our front page of our website, which I'll show you in a moment. And each DCAC member will be receiving one in the mail. They'll be receiving a hard copy in the mail. We highly recommend that you read this and you share it with everybody, because this really is our plan for reopening school. Let me go back and share with you how to access this plan. Excuse me for one moment. I'm still working on my technology skills on this. Let's see. Oh, I can't do that. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Let's see if I can get through here and escape from here. Nope, I can't do that. Well, I'm going to have to work on my skills, so maybe at the very end of this, I will show you how to get to it through the website, but it's right on the front page of the website, and if you scroll down to the website, it has a coronavirus area, and the first thing on it is this wonderful new publication. So my apologies for my technical skills, but I promised you I'll get better at this. So last but not least, we're thankful that you have decided to spend some time with us today in a not perfect virtual environment, and I can say, yeah, it's not perfect. We ask for your patience. Together as a community, we navigate a new meeting environment and unusual opening of the school year. We hope that you and your families are safe and healthy. So with that, I launch it over to Mr. Tagorda with the next part of the agenda. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. I've got a series of PowerPoint slides that I'll be sharing with you to go over our budget engagement process and our learning continuity and attendance plan, which make up basically the entire agenda that we have together here as a DCAC committee. But before I begin, I wanted to pause for a moment and just share with you how grateful I am that we're here together in community as a committee. Just like Jim and Dolnari mentioned, it's under some really challenging circumstances, which we are not at all taking for granted. And anytime we can get parents together to give us feedback, even under not so ideal circumstances, we are extremely grateful for your support and for your candor and for your grace. And I wanted to make sure that I start off this particular set of talking points to share that with you, because we know that it's really difficult. Under ordinary circumstances, we'd be meeting in our community room. We would have our pastries and we would have our coffee, and we would be sharing so many things to start off the school year. And while we don't have that right now, we know that in spirit, we're together with you. So I'm going to share my screen now to go over our budget engagement process and our learning continuity plan. Our agenda for today is talk about the meeting outcomes, the budget engagement process, the learning continuity and attendance plan, or simply the learning continuity plan for short, and the next steps for additional engagement. Before I proceed, however, I wanted to introduce some very special guests. First, Dr. Lucy Salazar is on the call. She's working with us and leading the efforts around our community engagement process, specifically with the budget this school year. We also have on the line Renee Arcus and Yumi Takahashi from our business department, who can share some of their insights and information related to any fiscal questions that may arise during the process that we have you on the line. And then we also have our Deputy Superintendent, Dr. Tiffany Brown, as well as our Superintendent, Dr. Jill Baker. And at this point, I actually want to pause for a moment, stop sharing my screen, and invite Dr. Baker to share some of her own opening remarks with the committee. Dr. Baker.
Thank you, Robert, and for everyone who has joined this afternoon. Such an important opportunity for you to come back together to talk about the learning continuity and attendance plan, and also just to bring your voice into this space of budgeting and the decisions that have to be made in the future for the district. I want to acknowledge the EACR team, in addition, Dr. Salazar and Renee Arcus and Yumi Takahashi for joining together to really think about the expansion of budget engagement processes that will take place across this year, the first of which you're engaging with in today. It's really a great opportunity for participating, for engaging, and for thinking about your perspective and bringing your perspective into this space, as we might say, including having 48 hours to provide your additional comments after the meeting. So thank you for that. Also just want to thank James Suarez, who held up the school opening and safety plan. That plan has been lots of hours in the making, a summer spent with teachers, parents, students, district staff, all contributing to many different details that it takes for us to think about the possibility of opening school whenever that time comes for us. That plan is currently up on our website, as James described, on the front page in English and Spanish, and we're just waiting for the final details of the Khmer translation also to load up. So I'll encourage you to connect with our district staff. If you have community groups that you think would like a delivery or would like to pick up a big stack of those school opening and safety plans, we are happy to create a stack for you to come to the district office and pack up and take to a community place, including places that you go in your own neighborhoods in the languages of your community. So please reach out to district staff if you have a need for that, or if you would like to be part of our outreach into the community. So thank you on behalf of our whole district team. Thanks for being here today to provide your input and to engage with us around the learning continuity and attendance plan and about budget at large. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Baker. At this time, I'm going to share my screen again so we can get into the presentation. But along the way, as you contribute your comments, various members of our team will be able to provide feedback and responses. And in the event that we don't have a specific answer for you at the moment, we'll also ensure that we document it and provide a written response for the community to be able to access. So in terms of our meeting outcomes today, what you'll see is that we want to understand the LBUSD budget engagement process overall, and then how it specifically aligns with the learning continuity plan. And then furthermore, how the learning continuity plan is actually a reflection of what you're going to see in the school opening and safety plan. So that you understand that while you may hear all of these new terms, they're all one in the same effort in order to collect feedback from our stakeholders and community and improve the work that we deliver to our students and families. The second is that we're going to go through the basic components of the learning continuity and attendance plan, step by step, section by section, so that everyone understands exactly what's contained within that document. And then again, we'll go back to collecting your ideas on the learning continuity and attendance plan, but specifically using 3 guiding questions that have already been provided to us as a district as important priorities for the community, so that we may be able to incorporate extra ideas and input from all of you into the plan as it gets developed and finalized. The budget engagement process can be thought of with this particular graphic that you're seeing on the screen right now. It's a framework that Dr. Salazar has developed. And you can see that there are 3 components to the budget engagement process that helps to provide information to the Superintendent's Advisory Committee, whose task is to make recommendations to our superintendent and the Board of Education. So I'm going to go over the 3 pillars or 3 corners, if you will, of this framework, so that you can see where you fit in and how we are engaging the community in order to ensure that the work that we're doing reflects the values that we have at Long Beach Unified. First, at the very top, you see the thought exchange. The thought exchange is a survey that we are using to collect general information about people's priorities on how we can continue to refine our plans and efforts heading into the 2020-21 school year. It's also allowing us to collect information that can be used for future planning processes at Long Beach Unified. So think of this as just a general way for any individual in our community to be able to participate and engage with the district. Then on the right-hand corner, you'll see a reference to community forums. And here, individuals can participate in a virtual format, very similar to this one, and continue to contribute and engage with district staff members so that we can continue to fine-tune all of the different ideas that we are receiving from the community. And then on the left, you see district and community stakeholder groups. That's where DCAC itself can visualize itself as being a part of this process. These would be community and stakeholder groups that work alongside the district in order to provide input and recommendations that can ultimately go to the Superintendent's Advisory Committee. And this committee consists of students, parents, teachers, staff members, administrators, members of our community, all in an effort to try to develop ideas and recommendations that can inform the work of the superintendent and the Board of Education. The budget engagement process has been following this particular timeline. And I'll note a couple of rows in this particular graphic. First, what you'll notice is that the Superintendent Advisory Committee met on August 12th. And then thereafter, the district on August 17 began to deploy the thought exchange survey. And I'll provide an update on how many we've already received from stakeholders such as yourself who have participated in this survey already. Then you can see that there's the virtual district and community stakeholder group sessions, and that includes this particular meeting that we're having today. A couple of days ago, we met with the District English Learner Advisory Committee using the exact same process so that we're able to collect stakeholder feedback from each and every one of you in order to contribute to this budget engagement process. Furthermore, for those who are unable to participate either on a Zoom call or in a virtual setting like this one, the district's activated a budget engagement hotline at 562-248-6867. You can think of this budget engagement hotline as a voice version of our thought exchange survey. It's going to ask you the same questions, and it will enable people to participate in their own preferred language in case that is a much more comfortable option for them. So there are many different ways we're hoping that you can give us your ideas and your feedback to continue to inform this process. Then toward the September, October, and November timeframe, you'll see that we continue to follow a series of engagement activities that provide information to the Superintendent's Advisory Committee and then ultimately get brought back to the community for additional feedback. It's an iterative process, a cycle, a way for us to continue to engage with the community so that we're continually assessing and reassessing how we can best support you. In fact, I'll give you, before I even move to the next question, an example of how the district has already taken action based on information that's been provided by stakeholders. At the August 12 Superintendent's Advisory Committee, one of our committee members expressed concern that there are many families who might be unable to participate in a live stream like this one. And they suggested that the district set up the budget engagement hotline that you see presented on this slide. And because of that feedback, we were able to ensure that we dedicate a phone line to the budget engagement process and have been able to now reach additional individuals who might not have been able to participate in other ways. So we're very grateful to all of you for your continued feedback to us. So you heard a couple of references to the guiding questions, and this is what we're talking about when you hear a reference to that. Throughout the stakeholder engagement activities we've already participated in thus far, 3 themes have emerged as part of an overarching focus on the health and safety of our students, our families, and our staff. And those revolve around these 3 questions. What practices would be most effective in addressing academic support? What practices would be most effective in addressing social emotional learning? What practices would be most effective in addressing student engagement and motivation? We're going to use these guiding questions as ways for us to frame the feedback that you provide to the district. And you will see in a few moments how these 3 specific guiding questions, which came about from feedback that we received from the community, are actually directly tied with specific sections of the learning continuity plan, as well as the school opening and safety plan. So I'm shifting now from the budget engagement process section of the presentation and getting into the learning continuity plan. And I'm going to start with just a brief overview of what this plan actually is, then get into the details of the plan, making sure to connect what you see with the learning continuity plan with what you've already heard about the budget engagement process and what you've seen from Mr. Suarez about the school opening and safety plan. So the learning continuity and attendance plan, or simply put, the learning continuity plan, it's a new state requirement that addresses, quote, the ongoing need for local educational agencies to formally plan for the 2020-21 school year in the midst of the uncertainty caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. In other words, this is a document that's required by the California Department of Education, where you can see the link here to get additional details, in order for districts like Long Beach Unified to be able to address the many different issues that people have questions about related to what schools will be doing for the 2020-21 school year, specifically in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. This document is specifically aligned with the school opening and safety plan. You saw James hold up this document. You can access it directly on lbschools.net. And Dr. Baker mentioned that this is actually a parent-friendly document of what you might otherwise find in the learning continuity plan. So think of the learning continuity plan as a reflection of this local document that we are using to fulfill the requirements that the California Department of Education has provided. But we don't want anyone to feel that there are multiple or duplicative efforts being undertaken to put together a plan like this one. Instead, it's all one integrated process. And when you see this particular school opening and safety plan, when you as DCAC members receive a hard copy of this in the mail, you can rest assured that what you're seeing is actually contained in the learning continuity plan. So if at various points you hear someone referring to school opening and safety plan or learning continuity plan, you can rest assured that it's all one and the same body of work in the district. Just as we have a timeline for the budget engagement process, so do we have a timeline for the learning continuity plan. It is an integrated part of the budget engagement process, but there are also very specific requirements of this plan that I want to share with DCAC. And you will take note, for example, of the top and bottom rows of this calendar. At the very top, you see August 1. That was when the learning continuity and attendance plan template was released by the California Department of Education. In other words, that was when they provided the district with the form that needs to be completed in order to share with our community and ultimately approved by our Board of Education in September. The deadline by which we have to complete this process is September 30. And that's what you'll see at the very bottom of this timeline. That is the learning continuity and attendance plan deadline, September 30, 2020. In the middle, we're developing the plan. We're engaging in stakeholder activities and consultations like this one. And then we are engaging in a public hearing with the Board of Education on September 2, and then considering board adoption for September 16. You'll note that the August 12, August 17, 18 activities, the Superintendent's Advisory Committee meeting, the thought exchange, survey launch, and the budget workshop, those are part of the budget engagement process that I described in a couple of in previous slides. Similarly, the DLAC meeting that we had on Tuesday and this current DCAC meeting that we're having right now, it's all part of the budget engagement process and also at the same time allows us to fulfill the requirements of the learning continuity plan. So again, this is another way for us to ensure that we're engaging in one work here at Long Beach Unified, addressing both the needs that we have locally as well as the requirements that we must fulfill for the state of California. On this slide, you see the sections of the learning continuity plan. And what I'm going to do is connect it with themes that you will continue to hear about our budget engagement process and that you will find in our school opening and safety plan as well. So I'm going to go from top to bottom, describing the specific sections of the learning continuity plan and then connect it with themes from the budget engagement process. So the first two sections of the learning continuity plan are the general information section and the stakeholder engagement section. And the general theme that it connects to is community. In other words, we need to ensure that what is reflected in our learning continuity plan are what we value at Long Beach Unified School District. And we want to make sure that we engage our stakeholders just as we're doing today in this particular meeting, as we are permitted to by public health department agencies. In the middle sections of the plan, you'll see a direct connection to the guiding questions that have emerged as part of our budget engagement process. So first, you see that there is a section in the learning continuity plan called continuity of learning, or in other words, how will the district ensure that learning continues in the 2020-21 school year despite the pandemic. All of the information that you find in this section is directly related to the feedback that we've received regarding questions around academic support. What academic support is being provided to our students? How are we addressing learning loss? How are we ensuring that we have distance learning? And how is the district preparing for the eventuality that schools reopen? Next, there's a section around mental health and social and emotional well-being in the learning continuity and attendance plan that is directly linked to the social and emotional learning guiding question in the budget engagement process. And then next you see the pupil and family engagement and outreach and school nutrition sections. That's directly connected to student engagement and motivation and how we're reaching out to families in order to ensure that our students are participating in their learning as much as possible. And then lastly, you'll see two sections that relate to the overarching theme of equity and excellence that we have at Long Beach Unified. And the two sections in the learning continuity and attendance plan relate to what they call additional actions or any extra steps that the district is taking to ensure that this plan is implemented, and then increased or improved services for some of our most vulnerable student groups. Specifically, as is required in the plan, the steps that we're taking to support foster youth, English learners, and low-income students. Now in this set of slides, we're going to go through each of those sections, again, detailing how they connect from the budget engagement process to the learning continuity plan, and then also to the school opening and safety plan. And then be able to provide you a glimpse of what you can expect when you go through this document that's available on lbschools.net. So with the budget engagement theme of community, we have our general information and stakeholder engagement sections, all of which connect with the message from the superintendent that you'll see at the very opening of the school opening and safety plan. The stakeholder engagement section will provide a reference to all of the stakeholder engagement activities that we've already engaged the community in over the past several months, as well as planned activities for continued and ongoing stakeholder engagement through the 2020-21 school year. And as it relates to the past several months, you can think of a thought exchange survey that went out in February related to our local control and accountability plan, the K-12 distance and home learning survey that was administered to students, parents, and teachers in May and June 2020. And then thereafter, at the very end of the 2019-2020 school year, the LBUSD Family Needs Survey that was administered to parents and students to collect information on their needs, even going beyond their academic issues for the upcoming school year and beyond. You can see additional details of each of these components on this slide, including the number of participants, the number of responses that we've received. The bottom line is that when you look at just these three stakeholder engagement activities over the past few months, we'd already received over 45,000 responses that we've begun to incorporate into our learning continuity plan, and that's reflected in our school opening and safety plan. But then furthermore, we want to continue this dialogue. So we've set up another thought exchange survey that is specifically related to the guiding questions revolving our budget engagement process. So on lbschools.net, if you log in at the very front of our homepage, you will see a link that directly takes you to the budget engagement thought exchange survey. And it will ask you the 3 guiding questions that we went over in a previous slide. One's around academic support, social emotional learning, and student engagement and motivation. And the ideas that we receive from these surveys will continue to inform the development of our plans, specifically related to the sections to which those guiding questions relate. And actually, as of August 24, we're happy to report that we'd received 3,309 participants, over 2,500 responses, and over 85,000 ratings, in which people are able to see what others have written, such as these 2 examples that you see on the screen, and then be able to provide a 5-star rating, just like you would see on Yelp or on Uber and other sites like that, in order to express whether you agree or disagree with the feedback that was provided by other stakeholders. This allows many different forms of engagement by parents, students, staff members, and community members, and enables the district to see what are the most important ideas that need to be incorporated into our plan. The next section relates to academic support, specifically continuity of learning, and covered in 4 different sections of the school opening and safety plan, including the health and safety section, COVID-19 testing, facility cleaning and sanitation protocols, and instructional programs. Here I'd like to describe by giving an example of what you'll find in both the learning continuity plan, how it's related to the school opening and safety plan. So in the learning continuity plan, under continuity of learning, and specifically under what the district is going to do in support of students, you'll see a section that talks about, for about half of this time, students will receive live, direct, and guided instruction. Teachers also will prepare students for the extended learning and workshop activities in which they will participate for the second half of the day. It's giving an overview to our community as to what LBUSD is doing to support students and what the structure of that learning process is going to look like for our families. In the school opening and safety plan, you'll get exactly the same information. And in fact, you'll even get this graphic form that shows you, roughly speaking, a sample schedule for options for 1st to 5th grade. There are also additional information for early learning, for middle school and for high school, giving families and members of our community a glimpse of what they can expect in the upcoming school year. Then when we get to social emotional learning, you can see it directly connect to a section in the learning continuity plan called mental health and social emotional well-being. And then in the school opening and safety plan, a section titled special education and mental health. In this section, you'll see, for example, in the learning continuity plan, the definition of what we mean by social emotional learning. In our view, that is the process of developing the self-awareness, self-control, and interpersonal skills that are vital for school work and life success. In the school opening and safety plan, you'll see it described with the opening line of district and school staff are committed to supporting students' social emotional wellness and offering resources to ensure that students transition back to school smoothly. In the learning continuity plan, you'll see some very specific activities that the district is preparing and are going to build in to the educational experiences of our students on a day-to-day basis in order to ensure that it continues to be a top priority that's addressed, as well as some specific strategies that are being considered to be employed to support our most vulnerable groups and families. Now we're reaching the latter half of the learning continuity plan. And that begins with the student engagement and motivation theme in the budget engagement process, which is the third guiding question that we use for our surveys and other stakeholder engagement activities. It relates specifically to the pupil and family engagement and outreach and school nutrition sections of the learning continuity plan. And then in the school opening and safety plan, you can find the same information in the instructional programs and special education and mental health sections. And what you will find in our plan is, in effect, a reference to the tiered levels of support that we're providing for student participation in the upcoming school year. And the tiered levels include the activities, the services, the actions, the framework that the district will employ in order to continue to ensure that our students are engaged and motivated and participating in learning. And the steps that we will take to support families in the event that they need additional assistance so that they can get the most out of the educational experiences this upcoming school year. And it's a tiered approach that we're utilizing based on data that we receive, depending on the frequency by which students are participating in their learning activities. Tier 1 would be a universal approach. The second part of Tier 1 would be a more personalized approach. The Tier 2 would consist of early interventions, and then Tier 3, intensive support. So as you can see, as the data suggests to the district, there are different layers of supports and services that are being provided to our families and our students in order to ensure that they continue to be able to participate and engage. You'll see more details about the specific activities contained within each of these tiers in the learning continuity plan. And then finally, the equity and excellence theme of the budget engagement process, directly linked and connected with the additional actions and increased or improved services for foster youth, English learners, and low-income students sections in the learning continuity plan. And then again, in the instructional programs and special education and mental health sections of the school opening and safety plan. And it is in this part of the plan that you will see descriptions about summer programs that we rolled out this past summer, specifically intended to try to address learning loss issues amongst our students or giving them an additional boost to start the school year on a high note. There's a reference in the plan to the elementary and middle school summer enrichment and learning program, where over 3,000 students were able to participate in activities that will help them for the upcoming school year. You'll also see references to our family resource centers, which have extended their operations and services being provided. They were open during the summer and will continue to be available for our family and community this upcoming school year. There are furthermore references to the social emotional learning resources and activities, supports for English learners, support for students with exceptional needs, the work of our foster youth unit and our homeless education program to specifically address the needs of our foster youth and students experiencing homelessness. You'll see there a description of the ways that the district is collaborating with nonprofit organizations and agencies to be able to deliver additional supports and resources to foster youth and students experiencing homelessness specifically, so that we can continue to address their needs, including basic needs like shelter and food and connectivity and other issues that families may need some very specific assistance with.
Robert?
Yes.
Hi, Robert. This is Lucy. So I wanted to take this time, if okay with you, to help address some of the questions we are receiving through our Google form, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
Okay, so thank you to all who are watching. We have been monitoring your questions, and so we have a few that we'd like to share with you. And Robert, if you feel we should address it now, or if we should address it in written feedback through public comment.
Absolutely. And at various points as well, we've got other experts on the line who can contribute some additional responses and answers to our comments.
Okay, so I'll read our first one, and so it's in English, so I'll read it in English and I will do my very best to translate it into Spanish. So the first one reads, how is the district ensure families have adequate internet capabilities and devices at home with extra help for high need families and children in special education? It is not specific as to how you are addressing. So in Spanish, I'll read. ¿Cómo se asegura el distrito de que las familias tengan capacidad adecuada de internet y los dispositivos en el hogar, con ayuda adicional para las familias con gran necesidad y los niños en educación especial? No es específico cómo se están dirigiendo.
Thank you for that question, Lucy. The answer to that question is specifically addressed in the Learning Continuity Plan section under Continuity of Learning, and specifically a section in there on connectivity and access to devices. And families who have very specific needs for support around internet capabilities can reach out to their schools in order to gain access either to a Chromebook or to a hotspot that enables that kind of access to online learning resources that students will need to participate in their learning this upcoming school year. Up to this point in time, the district had already provided over 20,000 Chromebooks to families. We have plans to distribute even more. We've done a similar thing in terms of distributing hotspot devices that enable internet capability and access so that those Chromebooks or the devices you're using at home can get connected to the internet. And then the district has also partnered with a nonprofit organization to provide low cost or free of charge internet capability. We have that form and information regarding that on lbschools.net, where you can find it specifically described in the coronavirus webpage.
Okay. Thank you, Robert. Do you have time for more?
Absolutely.
Okay. Here's another question. Sorry. Again, I'll read it in English and we'll do my best in Spanish. I know we have talented interpreters that are doing this as well, so please feel free to correct if I make a gaffe in Spanish. So the question in English: what staff or roles is the district specifically adding to our high needs populations? Plan mentions 2 additional interns to support foster kids. Is this per site or for the entire district? Will you be providing one-on-one tutoring for our high need populations, considering there is a growing disparity between our student body, with some parents hiring tutors, substitute teachers, or creating learning pods to support their kids? For those hard to reach students, will district hire supportive roles to do home visits? I know that's a lot of questions, so let me do it in Spanish and you can address it if you need to. In Spanish, ¿qué personal está agregando el distrito específicamente a nuestras poblaciones de alta necesidad? El plan menciona 2 personas adicionales para apoyar a los niños bajo tutela del Estado. ¿Es por escuela o para todo el distrito? ¿Proporcionarán tutoría individualizada para nuestras poblaciones de alta necesidad, considerando que existe una gran disparidad entre nuestro cuerpo estudiantil? Algunos padres están contratando tutores, maestros sustitutos o suplentes, o están organizando grupos de aprendizaje para apoyar a sus hijos. Para aquellos estudiantes de difícil acceso o que no podemos tener acceso fácilmente, ¿contratarán el distrito personas de apoyo para hacer visitas al domicilio? Please let me know if you need to repeat it, if you need me to repeat any of that, Robert.
No problem. Those are a great series of questions. I'll begin with a couple of responses right now that I can recall from the plan and as it's written out there. But we'll also, at any point, if any members of the team who are on the line right now and can address other facets of this issue, if you've got a response, also please feel free to chime in. Furthermore, I just wanted to reassure the members of the public again that because you've thankfully submitted these comments via our form, the district will provide a written response in detail. And so there are actually various points regarding that question that we won't be able to address at this particular time, but we will make sure that it gets addressed in written form for the community. As it relates to the interns that were mentioned, in the plan right now, those relate to a district-wide staffing rather than school-by-school staffing. We have a foster youth unit and team that's providing services from the central office to school sites and directly to families. And they work closely with agencies and other departments from the county in order to ensure that the needs of foster youth are being addressed. So the staffing that was mentioned in that question was intended to be a reference to district-wide staffing and not each and every single school type of staffing. One of the other issues that were asked about or discussed in that question was tutoring. Tutoring is also always an important issue that parents ask about. And it's important to think of it as manifesting themselves in many different ways based on the school, the grade level, and even in some cases, the teacher. So you might see that an intervention or a supportive program for students, they could be after school, they could be before school, they could be during the school day, in which teachers are providing some of these direct, differentiated, individualized support to students in order to ensure that they are able to flourish in their classes. So sometimes a teacher might organize the tutoring session themselves. Sometimes it might be another member of a school site. It really depends on the needs of a particular student. Sometimes, furthermore, a tutoring program could vary depending on the needs of a student. So if it's an English learner, for example, a school site might have an English learner specialist that's specifically providing services to that student in order to meet his or her needs. So you'll see those kinds of things manifesting themselves in different ways. And then lastly, we have RAP after school program services that are going to be taking place this upcoming school year at over 50 of our sites. You can see which sites our RAP programs are in on lvschools.net. And in these after school programs, they're doing a variety of different activities in a virtual setting. But one of the things that they are going to be providing to our student participants is tutoring and homework help. So you can see support being provided to students in that way as well.
Do you want another question, or would you like to continue?
Oh, absolutely. We've actually reached the part of the presentation where we are inviting comments from members of the public. So it's a great time to do it. Again, you might see me reference our 3 guiding questions along the way, referring to academic support, social and emotional learning, and student engagement and motivation. We're doing that because we want stakeholders to understand that when you provide us with these ideas, we are contemplating ways that we can incorporate them into our plan and specifically addressing these 3 buckets.
Okay, we'll take a look. There are some other questions, Robert, while others add to or address the guiding questions through. their Google form. There are some other questions if you'd like, if you have time.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. One question is, and I'll read it in English, but it did come in Spanish. Is it being considered to hire more nurses for schools? In Spanish, ¿está contemplando que se contraten más enfermeras para las escuelas?
That's a great question. We'll get an answer to that and then incorporate it into our plan specifically. But this is exactly the kind of feedback that we're hoping that members of the community are able to provide us. So in this particular case, if you think that nursing services or additional nursing services or additional mental health types of supports are important to you to address, then yes, continue to provide this kind of feedback. And then we are taking these specific kinds of comments to us and then considering how it can get incorporated into our plan.
Here's another question, Robert. It came in Spanish, so I will read it in Spanish first, I'm sorry, and then I'll translate it to English. The question is in Spanish. ¿Cómo van a ayudar a los niños a que logren acortar la brecha educativa? Y si los niños este año van a presentar el examen SBAC. In English, how are they going to help the students reduce the educational gap? And are students going to have to take SBAC, the test SBAC this year? So how are they going to take SBAC this year? And how are we going to help students with bridge the educational gap?
I don't know the specific answer to the SBAC question. If anyone in the group wants to, has information on that and would like to address it, please feel free to do so right now. Otherwise, we can address that in a written response from the district specific to that question.
Okay. Alrighty. There's another question. Sorry. Okay, this question came in English, and I will read it in English, and then I'll do my very best to translate in Spanish. The district stated in our last board meeting it wanted to lead community efforts regarding parent stakeholder conversations. Will district provide a virtual town hall in the morning and evening to give parents an opportunity to provide real-time feedback of this plan? I am a small business owner and in some ways have the flexibility to participate in these meetings, but many do not. There are 27 people watching this discussion. This is not parent stakeholder engagement. So the question in Spanish. El distrito declaró en nuestra última junta directiva del distrito escolar que quería hacer el esfuerzo de involucrar y entrar en conversaciones con diferentes grupos de padres interesados. Proporcionará al distrito una junta virtual por la mañana y por la tarde para darle a los padres la oportunidad de proporcionar comentarios sobre este plan. Soy propietario de una pequeña empresa y en muchas maneras tengo la flexibilidad de participar en estas juntas, pero muchos no pueden. Hay 27 personas viendo esa discusión. Esto no es participación de padres interesados.
Well, we appreciate that comment regarding other ways that we can hold virtual town halls like this one. We'll definitely look into providing them both in the morning and in the evening. Again, we appreciate this kind of feedback. This is exactly what we're looking for. And Lucy, I don't know if you want to add anything else as it relates to our plans, but sure. Again, I want to thank the comment there in terms of additional ways that we can be flexible to meet the needs of our community.
So thank you, Robert. So I wanted to share that we have reached out to our existing district stakeholder groups. Everyone has a person that is, the lead for each of these groups. And in my communications with them, I've asked them for their sessions, not imposing our times, but asking them when is the best time for their particular stakeholder groups. And they've been graciously able to give me dates and times that work for their stakeholder groups. With regards to community forums, we will be holding one in September, one in October, and one in November. And we will be holding them either in the morning and or in the afternoons. But we do intend to hold them one in the morning, but then also one recognizing that many of our parents work, and a 6 o'clock start seems to be a good time for them.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's take a look at more questions. They are coming in. One question, this came early in your presentation, Robert, but I think it reads in Spanish, and I'm going to translate it literally. The question in Spanish, or the comment in Spanish is, ¿Cómo es que van a hacerlo? ¿Podrían explicar? So the question is, how are you going to do this? Could you please explain?
Okay. Say it again for me, please.
How are you going to, I'm sorry, hold on. Someone's in the same. It is, hold on a second. I'm sorry, there's just someone in the same thing. Okay. ¿Cómo es que van a hacerlo? ¿Podrían explicarlo? So in English, it would read, how are you going to do this? Could you please explain? I believe it's, and so this is my commentary. I believe it's when you were referring earlier to your slides. And so I think it was in relation to the different efforts that we are making. They wanted specifics, it appears.
Okay. Well, as we go through the planning process, we'll make sure to add additional specific information to the plan so that it can address questions or concerns specifically like this one.
This other comment is about the presentation. They would have liked to have had the PowerPoint in Spanish. They said the PowerPoint should be in Spanish.
Thank you very much. Yes, we will provide the PowerPoint in Spanish and in Khmer as well.
Okay, there's also a request to receive the PowerPoint, the plan and the agenda ahead of time via email. That way they feel prepared to make questions and to prepare some questions and make the questions. So I'll read that in Spanish. ¿Podría recibir el email por email antes del meeting una copia del plan o la agenda para así mismo estar preparada y poder hacer preguntas? So it's what I just mentioned to you, Robert.
Yes, I believe that it was provided to our committee in advance of this particular meeting, but we'll make sure to send it again so that all individuals have access to it.
Okay.
Robert, those attachments and the document went out in the notice of meeting 72 hours before in an email, and then it's also posted on the district website under parent group meetings.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Dolnari. So you can see the documents that related to this meeting and to the learning continuity plan on lbschools.net. Click on the parent button at the front page and you will find the information that you need there. But we will also resend it again to the committee to ensure that everyone receives it.
Robert, here's another question regarding Canvas. Since students will be using Canvas now, will Google Classroom, Khan Academy, and Zoom still be in use?
That's a great question. Does anyone have a response to that? I'm not aware about the specific response to it.
I could speak and say that there will be Google Suite apps still being used. There will still be slides. There will still be Google Docs, Google Slides, Jamboard. These are all apps that exist within what we call the Google Suite in our district. But the students will be using Zoom when they are using Canvas. That will be the platform used to conduct virtual learning. It will be Zoom. Khan Academy, I'm unsure of, sorry.
To add on to what Dr. Salazar said, Zoom is integrated into Canvas, and Khan Academy is in the portal, and students will use it if the teacher assigns it. It can be assigned during asynchronous learning.
Wonderful. Thank you for that, Donari.
Yes, sorry. Sorry, I was muted talking to myself. Okay, I'm sorry. So here's another question regarding the plan, Robert. Sorry, I just missed my space. Will the district be posting a revised learning continuity plan and a memorandum or slide deck that summarizes community feedback and explain what was changed as a result of the feedback and what was not changed, along with the reasons for not accepting certain feedback, for example, monetary concerns, lack of time to implement, etc.
You want to translate that in Spanish, Lucy?
It came in English, and I'm going to rely on my friends that are interpreting in other rooms.
Okay, no problem. No problem. That's a great question. Yes, the district has to respond and provide a rationale for what gets incorporated and detail exactly where they'll find it in the plan. It is actually contained, that specific requirement is in the stakeholder engagement section of the learning continuity plan. And you'll see right now when you look at that plan that it's empty, and it's because we're receiving the stakeholder feedback right now, just as we're doing here. And then ultimately it will get incorporated in written format in the plan itself so that you can see how your feedback has made a contribution to the development of the plan. In general, you know, many of the, we get asked this all the time in terms of how do certain points of feedback get incorporated into a plan, or why certain things get left out. Many times it really depends on the kind of recommendation that is being provided by a parent or by a staff member or by a student. For example, if it is something that the district can immediately implement, then it's something that will get incorporated into the plan, and we'll describe how we'll do it and other details as appropriate. If it is something that requires like a really extensive amount of planning in order for us to implement, like let's say you want to recommend like a whole different way of delivering support services to students, that will require a lot of planning. And then it may not necessarily be reflected in the plan at the time that we need to submit it to the state of California. It doesn't mean that the district won't be working on it or that it won't be considered. It simply means that for the purposes of the learning continuity plan and what we have to submit to the California Department of Education, you may not necessarily see it there, but we will make a reference to it being part of another planning process or part of the budget engagement process altogether. So regardless of whether it ultimately gets reflected into a plan or not, you know, we appreciate all the feedback that we receive. And then as was mentioned in the comment as well, there is often a prioritization process. That's why all of your feedback is really important, because if we continue to hear the same kinds of ideas, then we know that we of course are going to need to be able to address it in order to meet the needs of our families.
Robert, do you have time for more?
Absolutely.
Okay. Here's another. This one is in Spanish, and I will translate since it's written in Spanish. Sorry, trying to go through the form. I'm sorry, in Spanish first. It came in Spanish. Me gustaría que el distrito tuviera reuniones de Zoom o que el distrito abriera un auditorio. I would like for the district to hold Zoom meetings or for the district to open an auditorium.
Thank you for that feedback. Yes, we're planning right now for additional meetings that will occur via Zoom.
Mhm.
Of course, anything that we do in person would have to be something that is allowed of the district to be able to do based on guidance from our public health department agencies, so that we can ensure that everyone is safe and can participate in a way that they feel comfortable.
Another question, comment in Spanish. It says, habrá personal especializado para tratar la salud emocional de los niños porque los maestros no van a estar lo suficiente preparados para hacerlo y las enfermeras tampoco. Gracias. In English, will there be specialized personnel to treat the emotional health, the emotional well-being of students, because teachers will not be sufficiently prepared to do so, and neither will the nurses. Thank you.
The district the district's hired a couple of additional staff members in order to work specifically on social emotional learning and the initiative that surrounds that. It's an important priority, and you mentioned the commenter mentioned the specific challenges that might be associated with it in terms of the expectations for teachers and for nurses. There's going to be training provided for many other staff members throughout the district to be able to contribute to supporting the social emotional needs, not only of our students, but in some cases also with their parents and family members as well. So yes, there is additional staffing. We'll detail that more in the plan. And there's also going to be some additional training around social emotional learning that enable other members of a school site staff to support families and students.
Okay. Here's another. How long, I'm sorry, I apologize. For how long are the virtual classes going to be, especially for our special needs community kids? That came in English.
Well, at this point, the district had announced that that we'll certainly have online learning through October 5. At that point, we'll have to assess and determine what is going to be safe for our students and staff members before we engage in any other conversations and dialogue around in-person school.
And I think this comment will also, it goes along with the one you just addressed. It says, how long will school be? What about kids with special needs?
Yeah, the same for that. We can also, we're hearing a lot of really great questions and comments around the needs of our students with special needs. So we'll make sure that we provide some additional details in the plan to help explain some of the support services that can be expected. There's also, I'll direct your attention to the section in the school opening and safety plan that specifically relates to the special education. There's a whole section in that plan that talks about the support services for special education students.
Okay, thank you for sharing that, Robert, because the comment, there's another comment around, and it says, I haven't heard anything being addressed for kids with special needs. What are your plans?
Yes, that will be addressed in the learning continuity plan, and it's also provided in there's a whole section just for special education, including details of some of the support services that they're going to receive. That's contained in the school opening and safety plan as well.
I'm reviewing the comments as well. I'm trying to keep up. Here's a question. It was more of a comment. I think it was in relation to something being sent or not sent, because a parent just made a comment that said, yes, it was provided. I received everything I needed. Just letting you know.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for that.
Okay. There's some other comment about, I noticed the LCAP is missing how loss of learning is being addressed. Will district conduct a learning loss assessment to determine differentiated levels of support for each student? Will you publish a systemic analysis of the assessment and a plan to support students with learning loss recovery services, enrichment, and programming? I can translate that. So in Spanish, it would read, me di cuenta de que en el plan LCAP no se explica cómo se aborda la pérdida de aprendizaje. El distrito llevará a cabo una evaluación de la pérdida de aprendizaje para determinar los diferentes niveles de apoyo para cada estudiante. Publicarán un análisis de la evaluación y un plan para ayudar a los estudiantes que hayan tenido pérdida de aprendizaje con los servicios de recuperación, enriquecimiento y programas.
Yeah, thank you for that question. That is specifically referencing the pupil learning loss section of the learning continuity plan. On the English draft, you'll find it on page 12. It's probably slightly different in page number if you're looking at the Spanish or the Khmer draft because of the length of the different texts in different languages. But I want to be open with the public as to where this question is coming from. Again, in the English version, it's referencing page 12. And the answer to the question is yes. The district is currently working on an appropriate response for that section, one that specifically details the way that the district is going to conduct a learning loss assessment to determine different ways that students will be supported. The district's working on that piece right now. And also a way for us to analyze and assess whether we're being successful in supporting our students with learning loss recovery services, enrichment, and programming. Those are specific requirements of the learning continuity plan, and you'll see there that we've mentioned that it's currently pending because we're working on what that's going to look like. One of the challenges is to be transparent with the community. One of the challenges with identifying different ways to assess learning loss right now is simply trying to gauge which students are going to show up in our school system. Just being able to determine who will be part of our enrollment in this upcoming school year is a challenge, of course. And based on who shows up at the door, so to speak, for Long Beach Unified School District, it's going to help us determine the best ways that we can assess learning loss issues that they may be facing, as well as a plan of action to support them, and then ultimately how we're going to assess the effectiveness of those strategies.
Okay, thank you, Robert. There's a question. I'll read it in Spanish, and then I'll translate to English. The question is in Spanish. Sé que los niños estarán muchas horas frente a las computadoras, que pasará a la hora de hacer tareas. ¿Los maestros la eliminarán o continuarán después de las horas frente a una computadora? The question is, I know that students will spend a lot of time in front of the computers, which will spill into homework time or time for doing homework. Will teachers eliminate or will they continue after hours in front of a computer? Meaning, will teachers eliminate homework or will students have to continue to be in front of computers because of homework?
Yeah, I don't have an answer to that question. Is there anyone on the call that has any expertise around that? If not, we can make sure that we provide the response in written form to the group.
Well, I can share, Robert, that what I know for elementary students and how screen time is a huge concern for parents, particularly when you think of this idea that students will be 6 hours in front of screen time, and that's not necessarily going to be the case. Um, so, the district recognizes, particularly for elementary students, the concern around screen time. And so the students will not be on the camera or on the screen for 5 to 6 hours a day. What they will be is receiving, approximately 3 hours of live instruction from their teacher. And then there will be about 2 hours where they will have the opportunity to complete independent or tasks together with other students virtually, while they have access to their teacher if they need assistance for any of their work. And so while a lot of these tasks they may be offline, they can be completed throughout the day, other times of the day, maybe even into the homework hour, what we would consider typically homework time. That's not to say that students will not have. I don't have specific information whether homework is being cut out, but I do know that there's that understanding that some of the independent work will be done after, and as long as the students need, because sometimes parents have to get home and have to help their students. So live instruction doesn't mean that they will be staring at the screen the whole time or listening to a teacher talk for the whole 5 to 6 hours that they're in quote unquote school. So they could potentially be in a lesson for about 15 minutes and then turn their attention away from the screen to complete what problems they need to, either on a separate piece of paper or on a workbook that will be provided to them, and then come back and continue with their class. And in the schedule for elementary students, and I know this because I have a second grader and a fourth grader next year, or this coming year, next week. And I know they will have multiple times where they get 10-minute breaks. They will get mindful and movement opportunities, to move around, to do some stretching, in addition to their full lunch periods for both the student and the teacher, because everyone needs a break.
Wonderful. Thank you for that, Lucy.
Mm-hmm.
We've got time for probably 2 more questions, and then we have to we want to honor everyone's time, first of all, and thank you for all of the great questions and feedback that you've already provided. As Jim mentioned at the top of this meeting, we're going to be providing written responses to them. So thank you for submitting the comments. Even if it does not get addressed today, we'll make sure that it is addressed with you and then ultimately also incorporated into the plan.
Mm-hmm. There is one question, Robert, can I share with you?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got time for probably two more questions, depending on the question.
Okay. So this one says, it's in English. Kids cannot learn if they are hungry. Over the summer, the district provided stipends for parents if essential working parents are working. There may be students who cannot pick up a lunch/supper meal. Is there opportunity for the district to continue to provide stipends in lieu of meals? We should not making it more difficult for our families to have access to nutritional services.
Oh, that's a great remark. I'm not aware or have any expertise around that particular aspect of it, but there is a school nutrition section in the learning continuity plan. You'll find that it's actually its own section in the learning continuity plan, found on page 16 in the English version. There you can see the general structure of how nutritionally adequate meals are being provided for all pupils, especially for those who are eligible for free or reduced lunch. And that applies whether or not we're for in-person instruction or in distance learning. But the specific question that was asked there, we'll need to research and talk to our nutrition services to branch about, and then make sure that it's provided in a written response.
Okay, here's another comment. It's in Spanish, so then I will try to translate it in English. In Spanish, it says, Lo que implementaron en el verano no cubre todas las necesidades, solamente algunas, lo que quiere decir que solamente algunos han recibido ayuda. ¿Qué pasará con los demás? ¿Planean proporcionar intervención para remediar la pérdida de aprendizaje? So in English it reads, what was implemented during the summer doesn't cover all the needs, only some of the needs, which means only some have received assistance and help. What will happen with the rest? Is there a plan to provide interventions to remediate the learning loss?
Yeah, that's a great question. You're absolutely correct. That remark is very insightful. And again, thank you very much for that. We've received some really great feedback and comments from you all today that we'll make sure that we address in written form, since we're not going to be able to get to all of the questions. But you're absolutely correct. The summer program is just one of many different kinds of interventions that are going to be provided to students based on the specific needs that they have. And that was one that would allow us to make great use of the summer time in order to address some very specific needs that students have. But then in the upcoming fall and spring semesters, naturally, we're going to need to do a lot more as a school system in order to address learning loss issues for other students, especially those who may not have participated in a summer program. And you'll see some of those details in the various sections of the learning continuity plan that I had described earlier today. That was when I was referencing the family resource centers, the math and English language arts interventions that are being provided. In some cases, it could be tutoring. Just earlier today, I had a conversation with programs staff. We're going to be organizing mentoring, tutoring type supports for our students. I mentioned earlier our RAP after school programs also being available to help out. School sites are currently in the process of developing their own plans to meet the very unique needs that their students have. So there are a variety of different systematic interventions and enrichment programs that are being planned, and we'll make sure that they get addressed as well in the learning continuity plan. As you know, the plan as it stands right now is a draft. It was what we were able to put together by the time that we released it to the public, because we wanted to make sure that we engage with you in this way. And now that we're hearing about the different themes that are important to you, themes like learning loss, themes associated with, the previous question was around nutrition, social emotional learning, the staffing that might be provided above and beyond either what the teachers or the nurses and the counselors might be able to provide. We'll try to add more of those details. And then in the section of the learning continuity plan where it explains how did you respond to stakeholders' feedback, we'll try to give as much detail as we can within the constraints of the template to be able to explain where in the plan you might be able to see some of the comments that you'd made and what the district is doing about that. And then furthermore, in the event that it doesn't get incorporated into the plan, we'll make sure that we keep this feedback for future planning purposes as it relates to budget engagement and other work that we're going to do with the community this upcoming school year. So on that note, Lucia, actually, I want to thank you for moderating the questions and the responses and comments, and turn over now to our last slide here, which we'll talk about next steps. And then we've got announcement and adjournment for the committee proceedings. In terms of next steps, as Jim mentioned at the top of the meeting, you can continue to submit public comments over the next 48 hours on bit.ly/aug27comment. The benefit of you doing that in that particular link is that we can provide a written response to that specific comment or question. Even after the 48 hours, you can participate in the thought exchange survey. You're going to get the same questions there, or there are 3 guiding questions around academic support, social emotional learning, and student engagement and motivation. Whether you put it in the public comments URL or you put it in the thought exchange, we'll have that information and be able to consider it as part of our planning process. The benefit of you using the thought exchange survey is that you can view what other stakeholders have already said, and you can actually rate the feedback that they've provided in an anonymous way. And then lastly, if you feel more comfortable just using your voice rather than typing or writing, you can leave a message on our budget engagement hotline at 562-248-6867. You can address any one of our guiding questions or all 3 of them. You can do it in your preferred language. While it's not a phone number that we have a staff member for, we're collecting all of the feedback there, just as we are doing with our public comments and with our thought exchange surveys, so that they are part of our planning process. So with that, I'd like to turn it over now to Dolnari for some announcements, and then we'll proceed with our adjournment. I'm going to stop my screen share right now too.
Before we end, I want to have Mr. Suarez show you where to access the school opening and safety plan. Mr. Suarez?
Hello again. Thank you for continuing to be here. I'm going to hopefully get this screen share correct, so bear with me. I think I got it this time. So if you take a look at the different areas, we're talking about the agenda, and the agenda has all of the links that are shown below. bit.ly/DCAC agenda 82720. I'm going to skip this for now, but I'm going to show it to you live in just a moment. Sign in. Please make sure you sign in today, because this is how we're able to respond to your suggestions and comments in writing. So you must sign in today in order to receive those. So that is bit.ly/aug for August 27 sign in. Again, bit.ly/AUG27 sign in. And for the commentary that you've been writing down throughout this whole thing, but again, it is open for the next 48 hours. We encourage you to continue to get your thoughts and process all of the information that was just shared. It's bit.ly/AUG27 comment. So let me share with you the 2 other pieces that we were talking about. This is the Long Beach Unified School District homepage, which is lbschools.net, lbschools.net. And there's 2 pieces of information that I want to share with you. One is, this is where you can find, under local control, you can find the learning continuity and attendance plans as they're written right now, which are drafts. So if you click on English or Spanish or Khmer, you will find the drafts of the actual plan. Again, let me show it to you how to get there again. lbschools.net, this is our front homepage. And if you click on local control, you will see the learning continuity and attendance plan drafts right here. And what I was sharing with you earlier, which is the school opening and safety plan. And these would be, as Pedro and Gloria would say, compañeros. So these are companion documents with the learning continuity plan, is right here. And so this is what I was trying to show you earlier, and I just was not technologically literate to do so, but this is this, which is the school opening and safety plan. And if I click here in English and in Spanish, you will see the actual plan. And I highly encourage you to take a look at these 22 pages. In fact, if I could go to I'm not sure if I can go down to one of the pages, but I heard Lucy talk a little bit about and a comment about special needs students. And when we take a look at this on page 18, it has special education and mental health. I think that might be an appropriate place to take a look to see some of the information that you may have missed. So again, I'll show it to you again. I am under lbschools.net, and I look down here under coronavirus response. Here is the school opening and safety plan in English and in Spanish, and we are working on Kamai. Thanks, Sam, wherever you are, and he should be finishing that soon, so Kamai will be posted as soon as it's ready. So that's it for me. I hope that your families. Sorry.
Yeah, before you leave, since you're on the webpage, if you scroll down further, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I wanted to show the public the budget engagement thought exchange survey link, which is at that very bottom. You see the blue. Yep, that's it. So if after 48 hours, you continue to have additional thoughts you'd like to contribute, please log in to lbschools.net, click that box, and you'll see the thought exchange surveys that you can continue to participate in. Yep, there you go.
All right, so with that, hope that you and your family stay safe and healthy, and here's to a really strong and healthy opening of the school year. Thank you so much and have a great day. And I'm gonna send it all the way back to my partner, Dolnari, which is sitting well over 6 feet away from me.
And I think, Mr. Tagore, you had one more announcement?
I did have one more announcement. DCAC specifically over the past couple of years has benefited immensely from the leadership of Dolnari. And I wanted to announce to the committee that this upcoming school year, Dolnari is going to be moving to the elementary office to serve as an administrative assistant there. And DCAC would be under the leadership of Carmen Hernandez, whom I'd like to introduce at this very moment. Carmen will be able to give you a little bit more about her background, but she will be supporting this committee. And I wanted to be transparent about our leadership transition process because I wanted to highlight to the entire committee just how important it is for us to ensure that we've got an administrator to support the parent leaders in our committee. And also wanted to acknowledge the phenomenal work that Dolnari's done for the committee over the past couple of years. She's been a strong and tremendous advocate for the needs of our parents, especially those in our Title I schools because of the mission of DCAC. And then now I'm just very grateful that we'll have an opportunity to collaborate with her further as a member of the elementary office team in support of our elementary schools. But right now I'd like to introduce Carmen, who is going to be leading our committee this year. Carmen.
Thank you, Robert. Good afternoon, DCAC board members, representatives, and our LBUSD community. What an honor to take on this important role. And I look forward to learning from, supporting, and growing with all of the representatives and the community in the coming year, keeping the best interest of our students at the center. And don't fear, Dolnari will be just a phone call away from me because I know that she has made great relationships and strides with each of you. Thank you, Robert.
Dolnari, I'll turn it over to you now for our adjournment. But again, I wanted to personally thank you for all of your efforts in service of our family and acknowledge all the hard work that you put forward to lead our team. I know I can speak on behalf of the DCAC board and our parents, given the relationships you've developed with them, the immense amount of gratitude that we have for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert, and thank you, Carmen. It was an honor working with DCAC and the EACCR team over the past 2 years. I want to thank the DCAC board members, Anna Sandoval, Maria Teresa Loaiza, Maria Miranda, and Clemencia Crespo for collaborating with me to plan engaging meetings for our group. I know that you will continue your work with Carmen and serve our families and do amazing work. I want to make sure I thank all of you for helping me transition into this position and welcoming me. It was an amazing 2 years. So before we end, I want to thank you all for joining us today. And remember that these recordings are available will be available in about 2 days, a couple of days, in Khmer, English, and Spanish for anyone that missed it on the district YouTube page. Have a great rest of the day. This meeting is adjourned.